Hello and a warm welcome to everyone joining us.
Hello everybody, welcome to the first class out of 10 classes from your Complete Beginners course.
So my name is Bruno and I have Paula with me today. And we're very pleased to see or meet you in virtual terms, I guess. And as we said, it's a complete beginner course, so you need no experience whatsoever in dancing and tango. But tango is a topic.
Yes, so we're going to take our time to build up the knowledge spread over all of these classes, and anytime that you need to stop the video to rewind and have a look at something again, feel free to do so.
So today, lesson number 1 for complete beginners of tango from Argentina. So this is a program, you will have a look at the history of tango, so you know what to expect. You will understand after this lesson what is tango and what it is not, the context around it, how it started to be. You'll have a few pieces of knowledge regarding the music, so we'll talk a little bit about the music and the songs of tango, because of course the dance and the songs or the music are really linked together. Then we'll have a few exercises to help you build the right posture for your tango, and we'll take a look at how we start moving, but we'll keep it very simple. So today is all about discovering this new world of tango.
Okay, shall we start?
Absolutely. So, a few words about the history first. So I'm going to explain to you, to give you a few pointers. Of course, there's a lot to say about tango, so it's going to be very concise, just for you to know a little bit how it started. So tango is roughly originating from 1880, 1890, so the end of that century. More than 100 years ago, 120, 130 years ago. This is the first trace of recorded tango. Of course, there's no real trace, there's no real photo from when it started, but a lot of people think that it started in the streets of Buenos Aires and Montevideo in Uruguay. So when we say tango from Argentina, we should say tango from Argentina and Uruguay, because they blossomed in the two places at the same time. So what happened is, let's take a look at what happened in 1970, 1980, this era of immigration from Europe, when Argentina, namely Buenos Aires, opened its doors to immigration. So lots of people came from the south of Europe. You find a lot of Italians, some French, some Spaniards, a few Germans, going to Argentina in the hope of discovering gold, because around Buenos Aires, Rio de la Plata, is the area around Buenos Aires, and the name of the sea. There was a bit of a murky color which people thought was indicative of gold or silver. So lots of people went there, maybe some of them gold diggers or silver diggers perhaps, with the hope of finding a bit of luck and getting very rich, if you like. But that did not materialize. So what we have evidence of from these times is a lot of people coming from these places, mostly men, and often with very limited means, and they found Buenos Aires in dire conditions, so very harsh conditions to arrive to, not many jobs available. So they arrived around the port of Buenos Aires, and most of them started to live in an area around what is called La Boca, the mouth, because of course it's what people were the first port of call, if you like, the first site of Buenos Aires. So these people started to live in some of them in very dire conditions, as I mentioned, but some of them were bringing the instruments. So you have some people with their violin, and they start to play music. And what started to develop quite organically is a new type of music, although a lot of people think that there's also other influences from before 1880 or even 1870, where the bandoneon was starting to be shipped to Argentina. So a lot of different influences, these immigrants, most of them, but also a little bit of cultural influences or local influences. There are also traces of links with African people who actually have been brought to Argentina and around, maybe in Brazil. So all this created this interesting mix, which led to the creation of the tango music. And we actually, of course, will play the tango music, because this is a beautiful piece of music, and you'll see that it's actually very varied and very rich in its nature. So this is the condition, very harsh at first, and of course when people start playing music, it's human nature, people start dancing, right? I'm the same, are you the same?
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely, right? When you hear music, you want to move, so of course these people were no different, and some of them had no language in common. They would come from very, very remote regions, for example, of Italy, having a dialect, not necessarily Italian, so they had to communicate through music. This is the universal language, if you like. So they started to move, and this is very simply how tango started to be. And also, as I said, there's also some influences from the settlements in the north of Argentina. People started to copy what these people were dancing like, and actually this created a mix of what we would call then the milonga, and eventually merging into tango. So tango is a bit slower, and we'll have a look at milonga versus tango versus vals, so three main languages or main musics of tango, but maybe not today because it will be too much information later in the course. Do not worry, we are not going to overload you with information. So what happened is these people started to dance in the streets very, very simply. Many men, because as I said, there were a lot of them coming from the south of Europe, so they would send the head of the family, if you like, to try to get some money and come back, and that didn't necessarily materialize all the time. So they started to dance maybe amongst men to practice until they were ready, or they felt ready to invite the ladies. So the technique actually created for tango was very organic. You know, think of different men trying a few steps together. Now this is interesting, okay, and this is how it started. So no real plan, no great plan of tango, just like organically, you know, developed in the streets. And as it developed little by little, of course, people who had a little bit more means started to be interested as well, especially when some dancers and musicians started to travel, and the first recorded evidence is around 1912, I believe, when some musicians and dancers started to go to Europe, and they went through Marseille, up to Paris. They did a bit of a show in Paris of tango, and it had quite a success, quite a sensation. And some people started to travel to see, oh, this is interesting, to see what the dancers were like. And of course, from Paris, started to be a bit broader in Berlin, in London, in other places, of course in the south as well, including Italy. So this is very, very quickly what happens, and this is when the people who had actually access to more like bigger houses, maybe halls, started to be interested, and this is when the streets dance became a hall dance. They started to dance in a hall with a very nice floor, and you're talking 1910, 1915, so this kind of time. At that time, of course, the music started to be a little bit more elaborate, I would say, a bit more with a bit more finesse. And one of the first classically trained musicians of tango is called Julio de Caro, very, very famous in tango. Started his first tango sextet orchestra. So a sextet is basically a group of 6 people, 2 violins, 2 bandoneons. We'll see what a bandoneon is later. 1 piano and 1 double bass, and this is the typical orchestra, if you like. So this is how it started. So this Julio de Caro started to have some kind of homogenization of what the music should be like, and it started to also go from a 2/4 signature to a 4/4. So if you play piano, if you know the music, you will understand what this means. So this change of 2/4 to 4/4 meant that basically the tango started to slow down, and the movement started to be a little bit more elaborate as well. And of course, because people were starting to go into halls, it started to be easier to start pivoting, which would not have been possible in the streets. Remember, on the pavement, not very hard to pivot. So this is what happened, and once it actually started to be danced in halls, then it started really to blossom. It started to actually also move to, in terms of reputation, to the US. Hollywood started to have a very keen interest into this tango because it's very cinematographic, it's very, very beautiful on film. And they had a great contribution in the establishment of tango as it is today, because they started to shoot films. Carlos Gardel, of course, one of the most famous singers of tango, started to also shoot films, and it created this kind of big, big sensation around tango, and this is why we know tango as it is today. So this is very, very interesting history.
There's a lot of history about it. Yeah, thank you for enlightening us.
Exactly. So, I would like to, or if you want to chip in, to describe what is tango and what it is not. So we have two roles in tango.
Yes, so we have two roles, and I would call this the leader and the follower. It's not always has to be leader, has to be a man, follower has to be a woman. This is how it started. And now, with the modern times, people change roles more often. So the basic concepts of tango, there are a few, and today we're going to be speaking just about one or two, perhaps, depending on how much time we have left. And we're going to start speaking, first of all, about posture. Even before we speak about concepts, no? Shall we start speaking about posture? So, of course, tango is an improvised dance, yes? And there are, of course, things like posture and transferring of the weight. These are set concepts we're going to be speaking about more today, but is in essence an improvised dance with communication between both roles.
Exactly. This is very, very important for you to understand. So if you've seen these shows on TV, it might not be Argentine tango as we dance in all over the world, in milonga. So milonga is the social dancing, the social place. So it might be a bit different because what you see on TV is entirely choreographed. It's done to be a show. So of course it's much more spectacular. What we call tango salon is what we teach and what is danced all around the world is this version that was developed in Buenos Aires and Uruguay in Montevideo, where people communicate through the embrace. So we have body communication, so it's a wordless communication. I'm not going to indicate to my partner with my words, but with my body movement, what I expect her to be doing. And through that posture and embrace and communication, we are going to send signals to each other. So it's a very interesting context because there's no predefined sequence in tango. I could lead the smallest, the tiniest of movements and it will still be tango, so I don't have to go necessarily into a sequence when I start tango. Of course, when you start tango, you need to learn to start somewhere, so we are going to start somewhere, but in time you realize, little by little, that there is no preset sequence. This is very important, this is improvised, and this is what it makes it making it beautiful.
Yeah, and of course there is a place for tango choreography and in tango show. There is a place for that yet, but as Bruno was saying before, this is not how we are going to be speaking about tango, and that's not what we're going to be doing for now. So, shall we start?
Okay, well we started already. I started already, I don't know what you. I started 20 minutes ago.
Start with our practical part of the class. Okay. That's what I meant.
Okay, so we'll start a few words about posture. This is very, very important, guys. That you have the right posture. With the right posture, everything is easy. With not, it's much more difficult, especially for balance, because tango is known to be challenging for balance, especially when we are communicating in the embrace. So you start with your feet together, and when we say feet together, we mean feet touching. And I'm going to have a nice stretch right here, making sure that my head is in its natural alignment. So think of it this way, I'm actually going up with the head, and I'm not going forward here. So I'm going to show you from the side. I'm going to stretch nicely here, and I'm going to go a little bit up here, not with the head, just there, here. Once I've actually this position, I make sure of two things which are very important. First of all, I make sure that my shoulders are not going up, going down all the way, and I maintain this down posture with my shoulders without losing the stretch I have established between the hips and the ribcage. And once I'm here, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to go a little bit back with my hips. This is important, guys. Why? Because in doing so, I feel that the weight is going to be in the middle of my foot. When you are starting, it's very likely, as a beginner, that you're going to start with your hips a little bit forward, because most people have this posture. Why do we have this posture without realizing? Because it kind of relaxes the lower back. So we need to engage this back here by going a little bit back so that I have my weight in the middle of my foot. And this is how I'm going to start my posture here. So not here, here, not here, here. Everything in its right place. So try a few moments with us to have this right posture. Very good.
So one idea could be to let go of everything, to let go of your posture and just be in your natural state, and then try to build it up. So one more time, engage the center, taking the weight into the middle part of your feet, moving the hips a little bit back and elongating the spine, taking the shoulders back.
Exactly. What's important here is to understand that throughout your tango dancing you will keep that same posture. So this part here of my torso is not going to go forward and backward this way. I'm going to try to lock it so that it's actually quite quiet and stable. Yes, so there's no movement back and forth. I'm going to stay here, and especially when I'm starting to embrace, it's important to keep that posture. Good. So I suggest we have a quick look at the music to identify the beats.
Yeah.
Because you need to identify the beat, whereas you are the leader or the follower, it doesn't make a difference, it's the same. We need to identify the beat because we are going to step on it. Okay, let's take a look at music. So, Carlos Sarli is the name of the orchestra here. We'll say a few words about the music, but first let's take a look at the tempo, the rhythm, the beat if you like. And this is the beat. Can you hear it? You need to identify in the beat. It's almost like a breathing. The modern I'm doing vroom, vroom, vroom. 1 beat per second, roughly. Can you identify the beats? There's this. Note that sometimes when losing the beats, it doesn't matter. Keep it with you. Now I have one more comment about the beats. Is that between two beats it's likely that you have a few notes. So it doesn't necessarily go jum, jum only. It could be jum ta 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 jum ta 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 jum. Yeah, that's the main beat which we keep. And in between, of course, you have notes, you have a melody, you have whatever. Don't worry, this is normal. It doesn't mean that it's accelerating, it just means that it's getting a bit richer. But the main beat stays the same, 1 beat per second, which is slower than what you need when you walk in normal life. So in tango, the main challenge when you start is to learn to slow down.
I like that concept.
Absolutely.
It gives a good opportunity to slow down.
Reflex.
And dance at the same time. I wonder
Yes,
how
no?
is that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So don't worry too much yet about the musical structure. I would say it's just for you to recognize the simple time, and we are going to later talk a lot more about the musical structure.
Absolutely.
Yes? Okay?
So, should we start
Yes.
with your first exercise?
So we're going to start with the first exercise. First, not in couple yet, just to develop that sensation of transferring the weight from one side of the axis to the other side of the axis. So I suggest that you start. I'll turn around in a second, but I'll suggest for now, have your feet together. Think about your posture that we were just speaking about. The arms on the side of the body for now, yes, just relax, opening the back. And what we're going to do is dropping a little bit on one of the legs. So let's say I'm dropping my weight now to my right leg, yes, and my axis has been slightly displaced onto my right side. Yes, so this is a very, very small displacement. However, you should be able to feel it. From here, keeping my feet together, I am going to recover to two legs, using the push of the standing leg to recover to two legs, going through the center, weight on two legs, and then dropping on the left leg. Repeating the process, pushing from the standing leg, recovering the weight into the middle of the 2 feet, axis is now in the center, and dropping the weight now onto my right leg. So we would continue from right to left and right and left. So the movement feels a little bit like up and over. Even though the movement is still very small, it does feel a little bit like an inverted U shape, circular up and over. At the moment that I complete my transfer of the weight each time, The free leg, it's next to the standing leg, does not have weight. Yes, so important to understand this concept. There is contact with the floor, but there is no real weight. Yes? So let me turn around so you can have a look this way. So we're going to do it one more time. So dropping the weight onto the right leg, keeping the legs together and the ankles together, and pushing to two legs up and over and drop the left leg here. So we would go one and drop, one and drop, one and drop, one and drop. Do you want to try it with me? So we have leaders and followers side to side. Okay, maybe one can face forward and the other back. What do you think?
Okay.
Yes? Alright, so let's do it together, yes? Start with your weight on the right leg, dropping the weight towards the floor. At the same time, you're engaging the center and keeping that posture, yes? And we go in one, going through to two legs. Two, you drop the weight onto the other leg. And one more time. One and two. One and two. One and two. Transfer and drop. Okay, so shall we give you guys the idea how this would work with the music? What do you
I
think?
think it's good.
Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's try. Okay, starting the right leg. One and drop. One and drop. One, drop. One and drop. One, drop. One and drop. So always try to use the energy from the floor up and not from up to down, yes? So through the floor, up and over, up and over. Okay, so I think maybe let's give you guys some seconds to try. We leave the music on for you and we'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, so let's start this for a second. I'd like to mention one thing for you guys is the concept of axis. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but just for you to start having the awareness of what is the axis in tango. So the axis is this imaginary line in your body that is containing or transferring the weight, if you like. In other terms, if I have this little mechanism to indicate my axis is going to be on the right leg, see my axis is here, and on the left. Now when I dance tango, it's quite important for my partner, it doesn't matter if I'm leading or following, that he or she feels where my axis is, because we are constantly reading into each other's axis to know what is possible. And especially as a leader, you need to know if your partner is on here or on here, because that will have an impact on which leg you are going to use for the next step. So really this sensation that you completely drop into the axis, you kind of make this axis very heavy, and the sensation is once I'm in axis, it's almost harder to push me. So if I relax completely, I'm a bit more free, I'm a bit wobbly. If I'm in axis, it's almost like I bring something very strong and I would need a lot of push before moving. So it kind of solidifies my thigh, my glutes, my back to stay very, very strongly in this axis here. Yeah, this is something that It's quite important in tango, make it very clear for your partner. One last thing about the axis, what we call front of axis is when we are a little bit forward, and back of axis is when we go a little bit back here. So we're constantly going to play with these two, not necessarily today. Today we are going to stay in the center of our foot. Of course we are going to shift from right to left to right again. But in the future we also have this a little bit of axis displacement forward and backwards, and this is going to have a lot of meaning when we're dancing tango. So these are all tools, and we are going to go after each tool one by one.
Okay, moving on to our first exercise in couples. Yay! So what we are going to do is speak a little bit about the practice embrace. So this is not the embrace you're going to utilize to actually dance. This is just for you to start understanding the contact via the embrace as an initial position, yes? So the leader is going to offer support by kind of scooping under and offering support here, so I can drop my arms, so not my weight, but just the weight of my arms towards the leader. So we will receive information via the embrace where my weight is. Yeah, this is why it's so important.
So my hands are placed onto the arm or even around the elbow of my partner, and I'm giving a little bit of a squeeze, and my partner is answering back by opening a bit. That means if I squeeze here, she anti-squeeze me, if that makes sense. That means I feel there's something there. She starts to get her embrace a little bit firmer. So it's not completely relaxed this way. Yeah. There's a little bit of something so that we can start communicating.
So we need to give a little bit of resistance, energy towards the embrace. So I contribute to the frame in the same way that Bruno contributes to the frame. And here, when he's going to displace my weights, then we have a good connection. Okay?
So look at this, guys. It's almost magical. I'm going to transfer my weight and bring my axis, my frame, everything with me. And she's going to feel it, and she's going to do the same. So this is how I start communicating in embrace what I would like my follower to do.
Okay, let's show it maybe in this angle. Okay, well, that's fine.
Maybe slightly there.
Okay. So have a look now what happens with the transfer of the weight, so the change of the axis, and also what happens with the feet that becomes available. Yeah?
See, this is my free leg. Left is free, her right is free, and I'm going to transfer my axis quite clearly, bringing her with me, and this actually has a result of transferring her weight. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, I have one little thing I'd like to mention to especially followers. Make sure that you don't relax your shoulders, because what you don't want is this. This is not good, because it means that my signal to your embrace is lost in your shoulders. So make sure that if I lift, you have to go a bit up, but the shoulders are not going up this way. And this actually allows me to communicate where I would like you to be, right or left. Exactly.
Okay, so I match here the energy, the resistance that Bruno is giving me by matching it, yes? So when I'm going up and over, I utilize from the floor, so I gather myself from the floor, from the standing leg, and this is how I'm going to communicate the transfer of the weights. And the embrace just happens to be very well connected. Yes, so we are not trying here to send each other manually, what I like to call manually, armly, from one side to the other. The embrace is just there with a certain amount of presence and resistance, and what's making us transferring the weights for follower is the fact the leader is also transferring the weight.
So I use, this is the big secret, I use my own body to communicate to her, not only my arms. Yes, so it's not go here, go there. It's not I don't force my partner to go left and right. I go myself, she feels it, and she follows me. So this is why we say it's a follower, because she's going to follow the signal. So there's nothing forceful in the embrace, and this is very important to understand for the leader. Especially
from the beginning, so you can build good habits, yeah?
Exactly. Think of it as an invitation. Okay, let's go now together, and we go together. So the synchronicity in a couple is going to be achieved by having a firm embrace, but not by the leader pushing around to achieve what he or she wants, because of course some ladies can lead as well. So the leader is soft but clear, soft and firm, and using their own body to indicate I want you on this leg or on that leg here.
Okay, so in terms of what happens with the free leg, I'm talking for ladies with shoes here so that you can see what happens with the heel. The moment that I transfer and the other foot becomes available, I just drop the intention of the heel towards the floor. So can I just show for a second? So I'm not staying with my feet exactly parallel to each other here, but I'm actually dropping the heel a little bit, yes? So it has slightly V-shaped position of the free leg, yes? So from here I step and then dropping the heel, keeping the main part of the metatarsus bone in contact with the floor. So that's the big toe joint. Keep it in contact with the floor, but not the outer part of the foot, just inside of the foot, dropping the alignment here, and then the heel, what happens is it's also in contact with the floor, so it's the inside part of the foot.
So for me it's the same. I don't have high heels obviously, but
it's less visible perhaps, no?
It's the same, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to bring my weight from one to the other by starting with the inside of the foot, and then little by little I'm going to roll the foot up to a point when I'm on the other leg, and then I'm going to lift gently, very very gently, the side of the foot to make sure that I don't start stepping on it. So I need to be very clear, am I right or am I left? Here I'm on the left leg, I'm on the right leg, and I'm transferring, and the foot is having this little movement here before I can start moving. Yeah? So it's very important that you don't only do the hips this way. This is not correct. This is correct. My knees are staying together all throughout, and one foot only used for balance. See, this leg is not used, and I lift a little bit aside. I'm exaggerating a little bit here to show you.
So now we're going to couple up, try this exercise in couple, and when you try it with the music, maybe we can do it a bit slower than what we showed on the previous exercise. Perhaps that's a good idea.
Okay. So we are going to build the embrace again, practice. We are going to do it every 2 beats. So, right and left, and right and left, and right, left. And we synchronize our movement here. We take our time. Okay, so let's build this embrace. Now, if you look at tango, we have 3 main components. The posture, the embrace, and of course the lead and the following, a lead to the music. So the embrace in itself is a full component of tango. So let's have a look at how it's built. I'm going to start being in this part of the room because I would like you to look at the left part of my embrace, my left arm if you like. When I build the embrace, we are going to start as a complete beginner with an open embrace. You have 3 types of embraces. You have the practice embrace. This is to practice. It makes it a bit easier because you have the same amount of contact on both arms. We have the open embrace and we have the closed embrace. Now, as you progress, we suggest you see that you start closing the embrace and see how it feels. Today, let's keep it open. It's a bit easier because it creates a bit more space between you and your partner. So I'm going to start with inviting with my left. So my hand is roughly at the height of my shoulder, not here, not here, just roughly here. And know that my hand is also in between us. It's neither to me or to her, it's there. If you look at the band of my elbow, it's roughly 90 degrees, doesn't have to be very precise. That means it's neither too much to the side or too much inwards here. It's comfortable, my shoulder is down, and I keep this little band at all times.
So keep the alignment of the shoulders and the elbows in parallel with the floor, in parallel line with the floor. So we're dropping the elbows here, and that dropping the elbow, it's actually good because it opens the back. Yeah, so we want to avoid going out, so drop the elbow, and by dropping the elbow, the shoulder is also going to go back into its natural alignment. Yes? Now, in terms of how much we communicate with this side, in tango that's always going to depend on the figures that we are doing, of course, but we always need some sort of presence. Yes? So how can we create more presence in this side of the embrace? By sending the energy forward via the shoulder blades. So not via the elbow here or via the hand, but via the back. So in this way, the circularity of the embrace goes all the way around me and all the way around Bruno, and it's not interrupted somewhere in between. Yes?
So what it means for me is actually I start feeling my shoulder blade here, and it's almost like I send my entire shoulder forward. But be careful when I say forward, it's not up and forward, it's down and forward here. So you might not have to go very, very far. What you need to start feeling is a little bit of pressure of your partner against you, so you have a tiny bit of firmness, if you like. You don't push like too much, neither too little. There's a certain firmness that you need to find, something that needs to be comfortable for both of you. Now, let's start to see how we close the embrace. The right part of the embrace is going to go under, and I'm going to land my hand onto her shoulder blade here. See, roughly here, not higher, not lower, roughly around here. Now there's a bit of flexibility, but needless to say, don't go too low.
So let's say for me, I am going to drop my left arm, offering resistance all the way through this part of the embrace, so arm and shoulder blades. So I'm going to close the gap here by increasing the amount of pressure and just a little bit of resistance and presence here, so that Bruno is feeling via the embrace where my weight is. Yeah, so both sides need to be equally present.
So once I'm here, know that again I'm not going up with my shoulders, I'm keeping my shoulder down, and see we have a bit of space created here because both of us keep the posture that we built at the start, which is hips a little bit back here. This is something that takes a little bit of getting used to. Do not start leaning forward with the hips or back, just above the heels, hip above the heels, so my legs are vertical, they are neither forward nor in a weird angle here, it's there. And then it creates this kind of void here at this level, which is comfortable for tango dancers as we build the embrace here.
So we are not going to close the embrace yet, not for this class. So this is just to go from the practice embrace to the open embrace. And how much space should we have between leader and follower?
So the open embrace basically means that there is no contact of the chest between us. It doesn't mean that the open embrace is miles apart. No. It means that basically we have to have the same part of the elbow being comfortable and down. In my experience, it's maybe half a foot. So if you face me here, it's maybe half a foot or maybe two-thirds of a foot is enough. More is too much. If you start going a bit closer, of course, you start closing the embrace and you start establishing chest contact, which is close embrace, which is not wrong, it's different embrace. So I would say that maybe this amount of space between us, let's say a hand at the chest level, at the hip level, is probably enough, not more. So again, I start with the left, I finish with the right here, and I feel that she's pushing me a little bit with her arm, so I can feel some weight onto my right arm as well. Now when I'm here, I make sure that I'm not, maybe I show it here, can you see I'm completely facing her and I'm not this way here. I'm facing exactly where I should be. And I'm going to do exactly what we did earlier, which is a bit of a change of weight, but this time in embrace. So I invite you to join us to change the weight here or here.
So one more time, we remind you to utilize the power of the standing leg to go from one drop to the next and not rely on the embrace alone. Yes?
1, 2. See, this communication is good, is synchronized because I'm using my body to go left and right and she answers by doing the same. I'm not pushing her, I'm just taking her with me, which is a big difference in tango. Nothing is forced. I'm inviting my partner to go to the left or to the right.
So a little word about anticipation, because even though now talking for the followers, we know that this is the exercise and we're repeating and we can get into automatic mode. Try not to get there by becoming automatic, but try to really feel the indication via the transfer of the weight of the leader so that the movement for you followers becomes consequential, yes, and not anticipated. I think it's important to create good habits from the beginning, yeah? So be very, very present. This is our task as a follower, the main task. Be present, be receptive of what's happening, and do not try to take over with the lead, yes?
This is very, very tempting, of course, once you've done a move 2 or 3 times or 4 times to make it one more time. Now, the concept in tango is every step is independent from the last. So you need to be ready, followers, for anything at any step. So this is how we avoid being anticipating, basically, the movement. We avoid trying to second guess what's coming.
Yes. Okay. Shall we try to demonstrate this with the music?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to communicate in embrace. Now, if this feels easy, you could simply do on the beat. 1, 1, 1. Here I just do one beat to change. 1, 1, 1, 1. Or again, 1, 2, 1, 2. As an exercise, I encourage you guys to change the speed, so you guess, you check that your follower is basically following and your signals are clear. 1, 1, 1, and 1. Okay.
So have a little try of that, a few moments to try. If you need more time, feel free to pause this video. Yeah?
Okay. Okay, so this is the end of your first class. So what have you learned today? A bit of context of tango, a tiny bit about the music. Of course, we have to go a little bit more in depth with the music, not today, in the future. We've learned about the posture, so this is very important to keep in mind, to practice. And we've learned about the embrace. We also learned about changing our weight from side to side and using the axis as a means of communicating and transmitting information to our partner. So all this is going to be a very, very important basis, foundation for your tango to start even moving. Yeah? So this is why we took took a bit more time today. Now, the next lesson, we have 10 in total for the Complete Beginner Course Introduction. Next lesson.
So next lesson we are going to be speaking about stepping in space, intention and direction. And one more time we're going to keep it very basic and we're going to build everything from scratch one more time. So it would be great to see you there.
So exactly, so we'll start moving forward, side, back to understand the mechanics involved in transmitting that information, because again there will be no sequence, it's entire pure communication from one person to the other, from the leader to the follower.
So to wrap up the class, we're going to dance a little bit just to show you how, maybe just very basic steps, no?
Absolutely, yes,
Okay,
we'll keep it super simple. Of course, we'll start moving together, we'll start to add a few pivots to give you a little bit of a hint into what we are going to lean into in the next 10 lessons.
Okay, so let's keep it very basic if it's only about
Well, I might do a few other things, you know.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we might throw in a few figures that we don't necessarily might use in the next 10 classes, so don't get scared.
It's improvised, so we haven't prepared
We'll
anything.
see what happens.
As you know, true to tango, it's pure improvisation. That means I don't even know what I'm going to do. I just follow the music and see, you know, what it does.
So
Right.
good luck, everybody.
Of course, I'm going to start closing the embrace. This is how it looks. So I'll start open first, and then we'll start closing.
So thank you so much for
joining
watching,
today.
guys. And we have a lot more in store for you over the next 9 classes. And if you'd like to have a look at what other things we have available, some other classes and some other programs.
So this is where everything is located. tanguito.co.uk/library. All our classes, including advanced classes, all levels, are there. We have more than 100 classes available, ranging for all levels. If you're on Instagram, this is where you can catch us. So thank you again for joining today. We wish you a very good day and see you for lesson number 2.
See you there, guys.
See you.
Ciao.